Chapter 25. Monday, 5:30 a.m. Awakening. Again. Hospitals are like rattlesnakes. Once you hear one, there is no doubt what it is. I never understood why the monitors next to the bed had to beep. Once the rattlesnake decides the threat is gone, usually it quietly glides away. A hospital continually makes noises. Carts clanging, voices yakking in the hallway, announcements coming from intercoms, all letting you know that you are in its coils, and there is no escape. Resist, and the coils tighten. I heard pages turning and knew it was not Gabriella. I opened my eyes and turned my head toward the sound to tell Larry to be quiet. Dr. Weeble stared at me over the pages of a magazine. Our eyes locked, and he lowered the magazine with a self-satisfied smile. I wondered if I was in a nightmare, not the brittle reality kind, but the confused, shifting sort where nothing makes sense, the kind where terror overwhelms all reason. He came in and out of focus and didn't speak. I knew I had to look away for some important reason. The reason finally coalesced into thought. Look away, or he wins. Look away, or be sucked into never-ending darkness. I knew I couldn't look away, because that is how nightmares work. And, of course, I tried with everything I had, because it was a nightmare. Then I was staring up at the ceiling, awake and trembling. I twisted my head on the pillow to look for the man with the snake eyes. He was still there, hiding behind his magazine. When I jerked my head away, pain surged as though my head was in a vice being violently tightened. I slowly realized that the moaning I heard was coming from me. A hand squeezed my right arm, and my eyes opened before I could stop them. Larry loomed over me, and I tried to focus on his eyes. I knew I was still trapped inside my head when he didn't speak. "Mr. Harding, please lie still," a woman's voice said. I shifted my eyes and saw a young, pretty girl, her face close to mine. She was pressing my shoulders down with surprisingly strong hands. I tried to loosen my back, and my eyes were pulled to Larry's as if some force were at work. He sat back down and picked up a newspaper instead of a magazine. That happened occasionally, but it made me suspicious. "Paul, it's okay, brother. Relax. You're safe." I thought I saw Weeble," I said, realizing it had been a nightmare. Larry coughed and my stomach clenched. "I'm sorry, brother. You did see him yesterday. He slipped in while I was at the head. Just relax," Larry said, his voice trembling as he tried to hide his anger. Is Madeline okay? The little girl? Did she get bit? Is she okay?" I asked in a voice that sounded like metal dragged along dirty concrete. "Yes, Paul, not a scratch. Okay, a couple. You did toss her to her mother like a sack of potatoes," Larry replied, without looking up from his newspaper. "You ever toss a sack of potatoes?" "I didn't think so, cowboy," I replied. He lowered his paper, studied me, and said, "Welcome back. Plan on staying?" I looked around the room. No bars on the window. We could be 10 stories up, though. When can I leave?" "Guess when the doctor says you can," Larry said with a smile. "Doctor?" "Yeah, doctor. You're at the University of Colorado Hospital," he said. "And Weeble?" I asked. Larry coughed. "Yeah, about that. He showed up yesterday. Don't worry, we were all over him." How long have I been out?" I asked. He brought his newspaper back up and said, "Not long this time, about 5 years." He deliberately unfolded the paper so I could see the date on the front page. I worked through the math. "You fucker," I said softly. He lowered the paper to expose a broad grin. "Okay, 3 days. I was ready to give it at least 1, maybe 2 more. You remember who hit you? Sorry, I meant who bit you?" I stepped on a snake and fell backward, hit my head on the garden wall. "Can you identify the snake?" "Fuck you," I said, unable to think of anything better. "Oh, right. At least this time, not only did we know who did it, we know where he is. Well, all but the head. We might have to search for it so you can make a positive ID. We want to make sure it's the snake that bit you." "Are you through?" He grinned. "Just getting started. What you did took a lot of guts. Look, leave Weeble to me. It's complicated." "It's complicated" hung in the air between us like a wasp's nest. One I didn't want to hit with a stick. Yet. "Would you mind getting me my laptop?" I asked. Larry rolled his eyes and produced my laptop. I told your doctor this was the first thing you'd ask for. He says it would be too stressful. I said he didn't know you and to think about this as your security blanket. And he bought it? I asked. Larry nodded. Of course. He did after I explained that I wasn't asking for permission. As he helped me get arranged, I realized how much I would miss him. He was the one person I would trust with my plans. The problem wasn't that he might act like a cop. I was worried he might not, and I didn't want him hurt. For most of the morning, I tried to pretend I was busy, which I was. I was busy trying to remember what I had just done and why I was doing it. Later, it occurred to me that neither Larry nor Riley asked me what I was doing. They weren't fooled. By noon, afraid I was running out of time, though groggy, I'd managed to wake up enough residual brain cells to get things moving. Larry was still in the chair when I explained that I needed to make some calls and expected to have a couple of visitors. "Paul, what are you up to?" he finally asked, using cop suspicion to mask the flash of hurt in his eyes. "I need to get something done before it's too late. I don't need you sticking your big nose into it, getting sideways with your girlfriend. Oh, sorry, your boss." "Cheap shot," he said. "Yeah, sorry. Look, you might keep me from getting hit, but you can't keep Weeble from getting me committed somewhere," I said. "I think you need to talk to your doctor," he replied. "What good is that going to do?" "Never mind. I will after I get something done." "And since when are you so big on doctors?" I retorted. That stopped him. Regarding beer and food, law and order, Democrats and Republicans, Larry and I agreed the lines were broad, gray, and blurred. Doctors, not so much. "Fine, have it your way. I'll let you make your call, and if someone shows up for a meeting, I'll respect your fucking privacy and not even pat the bastard down," he said. I activated intelligent agents and let them search for the lawyers I needed. One to handle a couple of business transactions, and another to force the U.S. Attorney General, Peter Gibaldi, to do his fucking job. I searched for the legal hitmen that other lawyers hated, lawyers known for winning because they took shortcuts. Finding those guys was easy. My AI agents even ranked them. I had to choose one from the top 10 slimeball dealmakers and another from the best mob lawyers using my gut. There was no time for interviews. The woman I picked from my slimeball dealmaker still looked like she did when paying her way through law school as a model. Unable to walk the talk, Larry looked into her cold eyes and motioned for his boss to frisk her. With an amused smile, Riley did so and thoroughly checked her leather briefcase. Riley held up 2 burner phones and gave me a long, hard look before placing them into the woman's outstretched hand. One of Ms. Heron's Facebook friends proudly proclaimed that she was a seductive, sultry stunner who knew and used it. A deeper dive showed that she won far more battles than she lost. Her unscrupulousness edged toward illegal, and she took Bitcoin as payment. As far as distractingly attractive, the flawless pale skin, waves of jet black hair flowing over her shoulders before tumbling down her slender back, unwavering ice-cold blue eyes, and smoky voice scared the shit out of me. She glided into my room and passed in front of the mirror on the far wall. I looked at the mirror because Gabriella hated any woman who competed with her Mediterranean beauty, and I half expected her to make a showing. She didn't, and neither did the woman's reflection. Ms. Heron told me to call her Sharon. I called her Sharon and thought of her as the vampire. The conversation lasted 45 minutes, and then she floated out of the room. A few hours later, the vampire called to inform me that the first task, the easy one, was ready to be executed on my command. Better yet, she was already making progress on the second task. When she said, "Talk later," in my head, I heard, "All you have to do is whistle." My second lawyer would have been the twin soul of the vampire, if vampires had souls. She didn't, or hadn't yet, sucked my blood, but she stole my breath away. When Henry Fugate walked into the room, I had difficulty breathing again for another reason. Henry reeked of whiskey and seemed to have absorbed the smell of every cigar he ever smoked. He made the top 10 because he had survived 3 indictments and, against all odds, kept his license to practice criminal law. He made the top 3 because of an FBI interdepartmental email one of my AI agents brought me. In the email, an FBI agent waffled whether Henry was a mob lawyer or a lieutenant. The FBI agent said Henry looked too much like something out of The Sopranos to be real. I chose Henry because the email also said that all prosecutors hated Henry Fugate, except for Peter Gibaldi. The FBI agent wisely refrained from saying whether that was a good or bad thing. Riley made Larry frisk Henry. Larry made such short work of it the guy could have been packing an assault rifle. I had one job for Henry to do, which took 10 minutes to explain. He asked for 24 hours to prepare, and I gave it to him without argument, since my airway was swelling shut from secondhand smoke. And he wasn't smoking. That evening, my brain cells were exhausted, and I rewarded them with brain-numbing TV. Conversations with most lawyers require patience. Both spent more time negotiating their fee than asking questions that might lead to answers they didn't want to know. I hoped it would all be worth it, because Adeline needed my help while I was still able, and it was time to end things with Weeble.